What's going on, guys? So today's video is going to be an interesting one because the internet was, I'm not going to say blessed with this, but they got it, and that is a leaked version of Joss Whedon's Wonder Woman script that he apparently wrote like 10 years ago. Now this leaked script has a lot of critics kind of shitting on Joss Whedon right now, and kind of probably getting a lot of people worried about the Batgirl solo movie because, you know, they're not so happy with what was written in this script. And it doesn't help that you're reading a script from 10 years ago that is about Wonder Woman, and then we just saw an amazing Wonder Woman film. So everybody is, whether, you know, more than likely subconsciously just comparing both of them, even if they're not trying to. It's hard to compare a superior product to a shitty product and try to be fair. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and talk about this because I'm really interested in your guys' opinions on this and what it means for the future of the DCEU. But at the same time, I don't know if it's getting treated fairly. And I'm going to talk about one particular article on the website Uproxx because it's the first one that shows up when I typed in Joss Whedon freaking Wonder Woman script. And, yeah, this one seems to be very feminist-driven. And a lot of the titles, when you search Joss Whedon's Wonder Woman script, are, like, a lot of, like, feminists in uproar, blah, blah, blah kind of stuff. And we're not here to shit on this kind of stuff or anything like that. You guys know we don't do that here on this channel. But I do want to talk about how I was kind of, like, upset with the direction that this article took. Like, basically what we're gonna set it up here. I'm gonna put the link in the description so you guys can read it for yourself, because I'm not gonna read every one of these tweets and we're not gonna dissect every one of these tweets. I just want to pick out some of the, like, interesting ones and talk about those. Before we jump into these tweets, I will say that I haven't read this script. I am going off of what these tweets say, and they have pictures of the script, so I'm gonna be reading whatever this person's tweeting about. So I have not read Joss Whedon's Wonder Woman script. Maybe one day we'll read it, maybe during a live stream or something like that, but I don't plan on reading it anytime soon. I am just going purely off of what this person is giving me. Also, I just want to make it clear, I feel like a lot of these start off sarcastic and then they read as the person's true feelings because they don't feel as sarcastic anymore. But then again, these could all legitimately be real. This is the one thing I hate about reading text, because everybody can take the text differently. This person could easily be like, oh, the whole thing was a joke, I didn't care about the script or whatever. That's easily what they could say. But, yeah, let's just jump into it. First tweet is, the first pronoun in Joss Whedon's Wonder Woman script is she, so I got excited that maybe it would be about a woman, but it's about a plane. Script reads, she bucks bravely amidst the wind, rain, and crackling flashes of lightning. We can hear her practically shake apart. I don't think it's very uncommon for people to refer to vehicles or anything as she or he. I think people do it all the time. I know friends of females that refer to their cars as he. I don't really see a problem with a plane being referred to as she. The next thing they tweet about is how Hippolyta is described in the script. Joss wrote, Hippolyta is every inch a queen, noble, beautiful, thoughtful. She is middle-aged, but very much in her prime. This person wrote, whew, I was super worried the Queen of the Amazons might just be a regular middle-aged and not in her prime at all. I totally read that as sarcastic, but I don't see what's wrong with that. Like, what? Hippolyta is every inch a queen, noble, beautiful, thoughtful. She is middle-aged, but very much in her prime. I don't really see what's wrong with that. I mean, you know, he's just describing it. I mean, she's in her prime still. Like, she's badass. She can still kick ass. Like, that's how I read that. I don't read it as like, oh, she's middle-aged, but she's still super sexy and beautiful and oh, great. Like, oh my God, you'd be like, damn, girl. I don't read it like that. I don't know if that's how this person is trying to put it out there. But when you say somebody's in their prime, that means they're at the top of their game. Like, they're still fucking legit. And, you know, I'm just really interested. I don't get what's going on there. The next tweet is really interesting to me because it feels very similar to something we saw in the actual Wonder Woman movie that just came out. So this is what the person tweets. In an alternate universe, we sat through 3 hours of Mutant Enemy presents DC's Wonder Woman's Steve Trevor origins. Very feminist. 4 stars. If you read the script, it is a conversation between Hippolyta and freaking Steve Trevor, and she's talking about how everybody on the island, thousands of lives, is under her protection, and he's talking about how if he doesn't get to a refugee camp, there's going to be 3 deaths for every 1 person on this island, meaning more people are going to die if they end up killing Steve Trevor, which is something that really happened in the Wonder Woman movie. He was talking about the war to end all wars, and that's the reason why Diana goes to help him. That's something we saw in the Wonder Woman we just watched. It's very similar. I don't see what's going on there. Steve Trevor basically did the same thing in the Wonder Woman movie. A quick one, she just says, me, tired, oh good, here it is, and it's Steve Trevor saying, alright, let's be cool, and then somebody named Goshank or whatever says, you bring a whore to insult me. Yeah, that's kind of fucked up, but I don't know the context of this story. Is it a war, World War I, World War II? Is it not? I mean, obviously there's a war going on, or there's some kind of tragedy going on. I don't know the time period here, so if it's really early, like before women even had rights, like World War I, when we were talking about, we saw in the Wonder Woman movie that just came out, women, I mean, even today, women still aren't treated the best, but, like I said, like, there's, the use of the word whore in a time period is a way women were described, unfortunately, so, I mean, I need context there for this one. Now, I gotta give some praise to this person right here, because this one did make a lot of sense, and I was like, alright, I'll give you that one. They're talking about how Diana uses the words, be a man. Me and my girls on our all-female warrior island speaking in unison, be a man is something we say all the time. We aspire to manhood. And I get what they're saying here. I mean, I kind of feel like where they're coming from, too. Yeah, that is kind of weird for Wonder Woman to say, like, be a man, when she's never known what a man is. Like, she's lived on a freaking island of women all the time. So yeah, that writing right there, I could totally give them that one, why she would say that. She could have totally said something different, you know, stand up to me like a warrior would or something like that. That would easily have, you know, been changed differently. We're only going to do a few more of these because there's a lot. Like I said, link in the description, you can read them for yourselves. But this next one, this person says, seems about right, and it's in regards of what I'm assuming that is to Diana using the words, I have no plans to talk. I don't know if this person is seeming like, you know, oh yeah, of course Wonder Woman wouldn't talk because she's a woman. Like, I don't know if that person means this, and that's what this is why I hate reading text or deciphering this, but I'm actually doing what this person is doing, because unless you see this stuff actually acted out, and then we have the context and everything that's happening around it, you can misinterpret this shit like a bunch of different things. But let's go ahead and just kind of try to make sense of this. Steve says there's no point. You're not going to start a freaking firefight. These people are not Diana. They shoot you for talking. She steps into a doorway as he moves back. He's at ground level, looking up at her. She's in the outfit. I have no plans to talk. That right there totally reminds me of the No Man Land scene. Before she climbs the ladder and she's all like, that is what I am going to do. When Steve Trevor says that he's not going to help her at all, that seems very, not that he's not going to help her, that they're not going to cross No Man's Land, that they have to go around and try to survive that way, but Wonder Woman's like, fuck you guys, I'm totally going through No Man's Land because I'm a badass. Like, that seems very similar. Steve Trevor being human, knowing that a bullet will kill him, he's all like, yeah, let's not mess with these guys because they shoot you for talking. That's how gangster they are. But Diana straight up saying, I don't plan on talking, I'm just gonna kick their ass. Like, that's how I read that. This next one, I don't know if the person understood what was written, because I kind of understood what Joss was writing here, but I don't know, let's just read. Okay, what the fuck is a blunted bell, Joss? Bells they're not sharp. You write for a living. This land is not safe for you. The people are under my protection, and if you even approach them, your death will be appalling. Remember that when you wake. She headbutts him. Her tiara rings off his forehead like a blunted bell. Again, I know what Joss is saying there. Now, this person is probably going off the literal sense of like, you know, a blunted knife, like when a knife won't cut anymore, because they use the word sharp, so I'm assuming that's what they mean. Although, wouldn't you say dull and not blunted? Okay, so anyways, the way I took that as a blunted bell, you know how when you ring a bell, it's all like, you know, it makes a badass sound. The headbutt, I would assume, it sounds like, you know when a bell just doesn't ring anymore and it's just like you know, it's fucking blunted. That's what I took that as. Like, that's why I'm just like, reading this, this person, I'm assuming it's a she, this person is like shitting on Joss's writing and saying that, you know, you write for a living, but I'm like, I totally understood what he meant there. And we're going to talk about this whole script in a little bit, but let's keep pushing on. This next one, the person tweets about some racist stuff happening. Again, depending on the time period, racism, very appropriate depending on the era. I shouldn't say appropriate because racism is never appropriate, but you know what I mean. It makes sense during a certain era because a lot of people were racist. A lot of people are racist today, but you know what I mean? Back in the day, people were super mega racist, like in open, public, not open. What? This next one I gotta give to the commenter because like I felt like the script was starting off strong and then it just went to shit. Person saying, gently cupping Whedon's face in my hands. This is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever read with my eyes. Script reads, Steve, yes, we need a hero, not a demigod sent from on high to lecture us about potential. We need someone with no advantage, no hope, who's still out there trying. A hero doesn't decide ever to be a hero. They're forced into it and they step up and they live with the consequences. He's in her face, seething with conviction, and she is shaken. You'll make your show, fight your fight, and people will love you for it, and then they'll need you for it, and it'll start to grate, to bore you, and one day you'll just go back to paradise. Every syllable hit, because every day you wake up knowing that you can go back to paradise. Fiercely quiet. Okay, you're not a hero, Diana, you're a fucking tourist. Yeah, I'm gonna give it to the person there. That's kind of, that like, the whole, I don't know. One, they're saying that you'll make your show. Like I said, I haven't read the script. I don't know what he means by show. Does Diana have a show in this movie and she's fighting people? Like, I don't really get what's going on here. But I do, when I was reading this, I felt like it was similar to the ending of Wonder Woman, to where, you know, he's giving his little speech about how, you know, Diana, I'm not going to give any spoilers for those who haven't seen it, but there's this point where Diana thinks the thing's over, but, you know, freaking Steve Trevor's like, it's not over, you have to keep fighting, like, things just don't stop, and blah, blah, blah. I felt like that was very similar, and he's talking about the whole hero thing, and how heroes don't really choose, like, they don't, you know, people just step up, and those are the people that become heroes, blah, blah. That's how this seemed like this was going, but then he starts talking about paradise and how she's gonna eventually get bored and go back to paradise and she's a fucking tourist. That's where they lost me, and I think I probably would have hated that in a movie. I feel like I know where Joss was going with that, because like he was gonna talk about how, like, you know, she could go back to paradise, although technically, Joss, if you know the lore, she's banned from freaking Themyscira, although she's been back to Themyscira, so technically, depending on what you're reading, I guess that could be true or whatever. But, or Steve could just really be pissed and be like, this is the real world, you live in Paradise Island, you can go back anytime you want. Again, depending on how the actors are acting this, that's easily how he could be, and it could be just like, you know, fuck you, you don't care about us, like, you can leave whenever you want. So I don't know, but yeah, reading it sounds pretty dumb. And this is gonna be the last one I read, because if you were to read just what the person texts and not the actual script, well, I think a lot of people would really, really hate this script. But this one in particular, I feel like some people would really just read her headline or this person's headline, and it could be he or she, and believe that, but not read the script. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, the script doesn't read that way. Me and my girls making out on our female warrior island, pausing only to say in unison, we hope one day to arouse a man by telling him about this. The script reads, she pulls him into the kiss of his life. After a good long while, they part. Steve, your whole life on an island with only women and you can kiss like that? Diana, it's an interesting story. Steve, it can't possibly be as good as the one I'm making up right now. Diana, are you sure about that? Again, that could just be playful banter, and it all depends on how it's being acted out. Like, I don't see anything wrong with that. They joke about stuff like that in the new Wonder Woman movie when they're on the boat. Like, they just make funny things about that. Diana literally talks about how she knows that women are like, that men are not necessary. Like, you know, they know the pleasure of the flesh and all of that kind of jazz. Like, I don't know. I just feel like if you're just reading it like that, but you're not imagining how it could be acted out, I feel like you're going to always read it bad. But I mean, I imagine that as being very playful, and like, I don't know. I guess that's just how I take it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't really see anything bad about that, to be honest. I don't get the whole thing about like, oh, she's saying, are you sure about that? Like, that could be literally playful. It's not like, oh, well, let me tell you about the sexiest story of your life. Okay, I'm done reading those, all right? I'm done. I don't want to read anymore. Like I said, the link in the description will be down below if you want to read all of those for yourself, because there's a lot. There's a lot, but it's all kind of a lot of the same. But, you know, like I said, the person makes some solid points at, you know, in certain areas of the script. I didn't read the whole thing, so I mean, they could have read this whole thing. It seems like they read everything if you follow all of their tweets, and maybe just after a while, it just got more and more crazy, so that's why they wrote the tweets they did. So that's I totally get that, but I do want to point out a few things before we move on, talk about this, and let's talk about the future of Batgirl. One, this script was made apparently over 10 years ago, or about a decade ago, and this is more than likely the first draft, because I don't think this was like the final draft or anything like that. We don't know how many times this was rewritten, so this could easily just be a very bad draft. No script that I know of has ever been written on the very first go. People rewrite and rewrite. Hollywood brings in other writers. Like, it's constantly always evolving. So we don't know what draft this was. So yeah, it does seem really bad, but I don't know. We need to know more information on this. Secondly, this script could have been made in mind with current movies of that era. You know what came out 10 years ago? Freaking Spider-Man 3. And some people consider that a really good movie. Rotten Tomatoes has it as a 63 for some reason on their website. So yeah, that is what freaking qualified as a decent movie 10 years ago, and that's probably what this was supposed to be. Or maybe if this was made 10 years ago, people would have been like, that wasn't too bad. We had a lot lower expectations a decade ago. Number 3, from what I've read, this movie did seem like it was more based on Steve Trevor than Wonder Woman. Now, I don't know if this person was just pointing out all of Steve Trevor's parts. Maybe Wonder Woman had some amazing parts that this person didn't talk about, but from what we read, it does seem like this movie focused around more of Steve Trevor than Wonder Woman. Number 4, in no way do I think this takes away from Joss Whedon's freaking legacy of making strong female characters. Because one, like I said, there's a lot of things that come into play here. Like, we don't know what draft this was. Maybe he just writes shit down and then fucking fixes it later, and like after you reread it, you're like, oh my god, that's terrible. Like, let me just do this. Like, we don't know that kind of stuff. Freaking, and you guys know on this channel that I stress, and I mean like really stress, that I separate the artist from the person. That doesn't make any sense. What I mean is I separate the artist from their work, is what I meant to say. And because I think it's 100% true, and I know a lot of people out there believe, nah, you can't do that. Like, an artist is their work. And I don't agree with that, because what if somebody makes some freaking amazing stuff, but then, and you think like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever, and then 10 years later, you find out there was some crazy sick fuck, and then you're just like, oh my god, that work was terrible. No, it doesn't work that way. You can't just automatically say something's great, and then because you find out the person's a shithead, that it just makes it not so great. Like, you can't do that. Like, I don't know, I just don't think it makes sense to freaking say somebody's work is not great just because you find out a certain something about them. Kanye West and Mel Gibson are my best 2 examples of this, because first 2 freaking Kanye West albums were awesome, but he's a complete shithead now, but I'll always say that those freaking albums were great. Mel Gibson seems like a scumbag person, especially when he's drunk, but Hacksaw Ridge is a fucking great movie. And lastly, number 5, I am curious to the person that wrote all these tweets about the script, if they are a comic book reader, because I feel like you have a different mindset if you are a comic book reader reading a script about a comic book person. I feel like you read it a little differently, because some people that write these scripts might also read the comic books, and they're writing the character as you would see them in the comics. Now, I'm not saying that is exactly what happened, but some of the dialogue here, I felt like, yeah, that's exactly what that character would say. But I haven't read the whole script. Like I said, I'm making that disclaimer out there. I haven't read the whole script, so maybe this person obviously did read way more than I do if they did read the script. But I am curious to see how that mindset goes. One last thing I will point out before moving on, and the reason why I kind of wanted to talk about this is because I just wanted to shine some light on how like things can be taken differently by everybody. That same person that tweeted out all of this stuff about the script also tweeted out like a Tumblr post about how like Joss Whedon's work has changed, and like it really shits on the guy and saying how like, oh, he's got this weird like nerdy, sexist fanboy mindset, and like it's actually shown in all his work if you really dissect it and all this stuff. And I was like, whoa, I was like, I don't know, I wouldn't go that far about that kind of stuff. But you know what, I'm not a Joss Whedon like lover, and I don't dissect everything he's done, but I've seen a lot of his work, and he's made strong female characters. Now, how deep you want to go into that, like philosophically or whatever, that's your prerogative, but I don't think that Joss Whedon is over here, like, just making strong characters and then secretly like, oh man, I hate women, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't believe that that's the case at all. But people are totally free to think that, and personally, I don't know Joss Whedon, so maybe he is. So, there's a lot of speculation there, but I don't know, I just don't see someone writing a bunch of female characters that are strong and then secretly hating them, you know what I mean? But, I don't know. So, the one thing I really, really want to talk about here is the reason why I think that this is getting a lot of hate, or a lot of like feminists or other people are coming out of the woodwork to talk shit about Joss, is one, we just saw an amazing Wonder Woman film, so reading this script and comparing it, you know, it's an easy target. And two, Joss in recent years has become very outspoken, you know, very liberal, or whatever you call the political term. And I think that opens him up for a lot of criticism, and he's a big target for people now because some people might not agree with his views. I know he's made some crazy jokes on Twitter sometimes about his political views, and some people hate him for that. And so anything that they can do to attack Joss, they will. And this could be one of those instances. But, you know, I'm not going to say that anybody's doing that. I'm just saying that that is, when you put yourself out there the way Joss Whedon does, you open yourself up for attacks like this, or like for people to criticize you, and you kind of just got to do it. You got to own up to it, because you can't be out there, speak your mind, and then when somebody else tries to speak their mind, you're like, oh no, that's not me. You got to just, you know, got to roll with the punches. Now, let's talk about the freaking DCEU, because I know that's what a lot of you guys want to talk about. You might be worried if you did read this whole script and you're like, oh my god, freaking Batgirl's gonna suck. I don't believe that at all, because there's a lot more factors into this Batgirl movie than this Wonder Woman movie. One, since this script was made, Joss Whedon has made 2 very successful Avengers movies that had a badass female character in them, by the way. And I think the times have changed, you know? Those are the standards now. You can't make shitty freaking superhero movies like, you know, Spider-Man 3 did back in the day, or any Fantastic Four movie ever. That doesn't roll nowadays. Joss knows he has to make better films to keep getting work, and you don't keep getting work if you make shitty films. Also, times have changed in a decade, and everybody has more ways to talk shit to you, aka Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. Everybody has outsources, and if you do something bad, like a very bad script like this, people are gonna talk about it. So a lot of people don't do shit like this. Number 2, freaking Joss Whedon is not gonna be able to just do whatever the hell he wants on this script. He has actual people from DC Comics overseeing this movie. You have Jeff freaking Johns gonna be overseeing this movie. He's written a lot of comic book stuff. There's no way he's gonna make freaking Batgirl weak or anything like that. He's gonna be like, this is what Batgirl is. Freaking, you gotta write her this way, or she's gotta come off as this, you know, kind of thing. He's gonna have some people reading this script. They're gonna give him pointers. He's gonna go back and rewrite. I'm not worried about this at all. Number 3, and it's kind of similar to what I just said, you know, you're gonna have people like Jeff Johns watching Whedon as he writes this, or he's about to direct this. He's also jumping over to Justice League. We're seeing him make changes on Justice League, but you know, we're going to get our first preview of his work in the DCEU with Justice League, because he's going to have small parts in that. He's already changed the composer, if you didn't see my video from yesterday. But with the success of Wonder Woman, not the one he wrote, but the one Patty Jenkins directed, DC is really going to make sure that their female characters are well represented like they just did, and they're going to make sure that Joss pays, like, you know, that he does Batgirl's freaking story right. And that means, like, there's even more eyes on him to make a great Batgirl movie. And I don't think he's gonna fuck that up. And number 4 is just repeating something I already said. And that is, I don't think you can take away from Joss Whedon's work in, you know, the science fiction or, like, supernatural kind of work and the strong female characters that he's made. And just assume that this is all he thinks about and that he hates women and blah, blah, blah. Like, I think it's just kind of a, you know, a narrow-minded mindset of people that kind of want to attack him because this dude is so, like, political with his views or whatever, and they think that he just, like, hates women and that this Batgirl movie might be in jeopardy because of this freaking Wonder Woman script he wrote 10 years ago. That might be the actual first draft. So, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not worried about the Batgirl movie at all right now. I think, like I said, there's a lot of people that are going to have their hands in it. They're still going to let him do his free, you know, whatever he wants to do, but they're going to be like, no, you can't do that too much. Like, it's a little too crazy. Let's dial it back. Let's make it more true to her character. And he's going to fix those things because at the end, of the day, it's his freaking reputation. Also, it's going to be the first ever Batgirl movie, so I feel like they're going to deal with it just like they dealt... Okay. Also, it's going to be the first ever Batgirl movie, so I feel like they'll deal with it the same way they dealt with Wonder Woman, and they're just going to want to make it the best thing it could be, because it's going to be the first time that character has ever been on the big screen. But that is going to be it, guys. I do want to know what you guys think about Joss Whedon's Wonder Woman script. Are you scared about the future of the Batgirl movie, maybe the DCEU, or do you think it's just complete bullshit, and you're going to judge him off the work that's actually made it onto the big screen and the small screen? Let me know what you think in the comment sections down below. Don't forget, if you ever want to support this channel, you can check out the Patreon like these awesome people did, or you can do the OG thing and give this video a like and share it with all of your Wonder Woman freaking DCEU buddies. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for all things nerdy and geeky on this channel. As always, I'm your host, JUICEfromtheBOX. Remember, when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself something. If I'm an daily dose of juice, see you guys next time.